Young, yeah, got a chance to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. This is a game that, well, let's just say there's been a little bit of controversy about it. He played 4 hours.
So
and
there's
he has
a lot
some
riding on
concerns.
Assassin's Creed Shadows right now.
Yeah,
If you've been
like
keeping
the
up with
entire
Ubisoft,
company.
you know that the company is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
A bunch of their projects got delayed. We've got situations like the layoffs and the studio shutdowns, their major releases not meeting sales expectations. They are hoping that Assassin's Creed Shadows will kind of bring them back.
This
from
needs to be a blowout.
the rut. So I was very curious to play the title. I was able to get 4 hours.
Do you want to hear another game that got delayed because of the quality and they had to take extra time to make sure that it was good before it was released? Suicide Squad killed the Justice League.
Hands-on with it, and in this video I'll be sharing my thoughts. I do think that this game is gonna sell relatively well.
4 to 6 million
usually tends
That's my
to sell
bet.
well, and with the Japan setting, this is definitely a game that's gaining a lot of traction. Now, whether I think this game will be the one that pushes Assassin's Creed to the next level, that will break away from Ubisoft's
I'm just looking at the stairs.
stale
Yeah, stairs are pretty
as
good.
far as their game design is concerned, that I'm not quite sure of.
Yeah.
Within my 4 hours hands-on time, I will say that I'm not fully convinced that this is gonna win over those who have felt that Assassin's Creed has gone kind of stale. It's gonna come down to whether there is still that sense of an overabundance of content that feels insubstantial, that doesn't feel handcrafted, a lot of that copy and pasted stuff that Ubisoft open world games tend to have. As far
Well,
as
that's a problem that a lot of games have now, is they introduce too much scope into the game, and they don't give you a very... Like, it's better to give somebody a narrow slice of a really good type of content, rather than trying to get them to accept, you know, some, like, everything game, basically.
the story and
Opening
narrative
chests,
are concerned,
filling
nothing
up a
shown
bar.
in this demo really grabbed me.
Yeah.
In some part to do with just how stiff some of the animations look during cutscenes, and the presentation is just, when I look at what, say, like Ghost of Tsushima did, in comparison, this just feels like a bit of a step down, but maybe the narrative will hook me as the rest of the game goes along. But so far...
Let's get this straight. So you don't like the way the characters look, you don't like the graphics, you think the combat's probably mediocre, the game's mired in controversy, but somehow the storyline is going to be what's good. Uh-huh. I've seen less cope from QAnon posts.
I just didn't have that narrative hook, which for me is an important part of any campaign-driven single-player experience.
Be honest.
And there's just a bit of awkwardness to some of the dialogue and the writing that don't lend themselves to natural-feeling conversations, that don't allow me to feel fully immersed.
People that make games that focus on superficial, meaningless things like representation or whatever, these are not people who care about crafting a good story, and they don't care about crafting an experience that's meaningful. They don't care about telling a good story, they care about telling their story. So everything that these people are going to make is going to be garbage. That's it. It's going to be garbage. Like, I can almost guarantee you the story will probably be one of the worst parts of this game.
And everything that's going on. And based on what this gameplay session presented, I'll be honest with you, neither of the protagonists are particularly interesting. They don't have any, like, personality quirks that stand out. They don't have any, like, awesome chemistry that make their interactions compelling. Nothing in these initial hours showed anything interesting that drew me to these characters. Hopefully that will change over time. I will say
it's just crazy to me that, like, I could have done that Cyberpunk with Jackie at the beginning. I still remember that. That shit went well. Like, it's just like, this is like comparing the Olympics to some fat dude laying on a bed. I mean, you're not even going anywhere. It's embarrassing.
In terms of gameplay, Yasuke and Naoe do feel quite different. Yasuke definitely feels like that bulldozer, the hammer, if you will, who will trounce through enemies and combat scenarios. Naoe is definitely more about agility, about being stealthy. If Yasuke is the hammer, then Naoe would be the scalpel. She can still hold her own in combat. You'll just have an easier time with Yasuke, who has those powerhouse moves and active skills to be able to trounce enemies. And not to mention that with Yasuke, for example,
looks like, I mean,
doing parkour is just a lot more awkward because of how slow and chonky he is, whereas now it just kind of breezes through obstacles and environments, and she just has all the right tools for stealth. And so it's a matter of what kind of approach you want to take with every mission, with every scenario, whether you want to just like literally bust through the front doors, which Yasuke can do, or whether you want to kind of take it through the roofs or through the shadows.
I'm the
and
juggernaut,
the moment-to-moment
bitch!
Gameplay of the two characters, aside from feeling distinct, feels relatively good. I'd say Yasuke's combat, while I still need to play more of it, there is...
How can you look at this and say that it's good?
Like a nice sense of impact with every...
I feel like this is horrible. Like, I play video games for their combat. Like we were playing Ninja Gaiden the other day, right? Like, it's not even remotely close. And before you go and you say, oh, but this is more realistic, this isn't realistic. Look at this.
While I still need to play more of it, there is like a nice...
That's not realistic. What are we talking about? This is ridiculous. It's just garbage. Like, what is this?
Of impact with every strike. I do think that some of the enemy combat move designs just a little weird, where it feels like you're attacking them and then you don't see them get stunned by some of your stronger attacks, and they're automatically able to dish out attacks that will stop your momentum. And so there is an element...
They probably have a posture bar that's built in, and then after the posture bar gets broken, there's an internal paralyze period where they're available to be hit. And then after that posture bar goes away and after that period ends, then they're able to resume their normal attacks and they're unable to be staggered again. Because that's the way that a lot of games work. Like, yeah, that's the reason why. Very clever developing. Yeah, no one's ever done that before.
Of that kind of disrupted the flow. Combat can feel good when it's flowing well, but then there are other times where just that bit of jankiness comes in, where it feels like it's just not the most refined combat system.
I'm going to do a donation drive tomorrow for $17 so we can buy Ubisoft after this game comes out. And so I have, I mean, it's $17, so that way I can use the extra $7 left over to buy one item at McDonald's.
And as far as the stealth and parkour goes, you've got the parkour up and parkour down buttons that you can hold so you can have more finesse in the parkour. I do like that now it has that grappling hook now, which makes it so much easier to get to rooftops. Vertical traversal feels just a lot better because of now his new tools and capabilities, especially with that grappling hook, which not only allows you to ascend to greater heights easily, but allows you to like swing through trees and whatnot. The stealth system now has the ability for you to go prone, which is a nice addition, allows for just a bit more flexibility. So there are definitely some mechanical elements that I did enjoy from moment to moment, though I do still hate scenarios where one of the larger type enemies, like the brute archetypes, when you go for an assassination, if they're higher level than you, then a blade through the throat or through the face or through the head won't end up killing them. It'll deplete, you know, a significant portion of their life bar, but not take them down. It just makes assassination feel a little more secondary, less satisfactory. I've never liked the introduction of that kind of scaling for the assassination part of the game. And the fact that
it's a minor complaint, but I can see what he's I like. It's an immersion thing. Yeah, like I can kind of see that. I can see not doing that. Like I could see either one.
That makes a return is just a little bit annoying.
It's just
in terms of the overall game
it's
design.
An opinion.
That's where I'm still quite unsure as to whether this is gonna fall prey.
Wait, did this is all one clip? So let me get this straight.
You know,
so she
a
jumps
significant
down,
portion of their life
she
bar,
assassinates
but not
him.
take them down. It just makes assassination feel
And then
a little more secondary, less
she just walks
satisfactory.
away.
I've never liked the introduction of that kind of scaling for the assassination
And she goes behind a wall.
part of the game. And the fact that that makes a return is just a little bit annoying. In terms of the overall game design, that's where I'm still quite unsure as to whether this is gonna fall prey to the same old Ubisoft open world formula. They do try to make exploration and going after quest objectives a little more engaging by having the system where you can send a scout and you can kind of pull that up on your map, and there's this big area that you can send your scouts in to unearth the objective marker by using the hints on the objectives to know where on the map you use that big area scout system, almost like as a radar. And I'll be honest with you, that didn't really enhance the sense of exploration. It doesn't feel like there's much of a challenge to it or sense of like critical thinking involved. The clues are so obvious. And
Do you remember what I was saying before about how features get added into video games as a result? Like, this is the video game equivalent of government bureaucracy. Nobody asked, nobody wanted this, nobody needed this, it's not necessary, and it doesn't improve any aspect of the core gameplay at all. It just is this feature that's now added into the game. Like, I really think that, and you think about this game, right? I mean, this is a $100 million+ game. This is a 9-figure game. What is going on? What is this? Do people know, like, I think that being, and this is true, like, how many of you guys have done something creative, like editing or writing or something like that? I've always viewed that true expertise isn't knowing where to begin, it's knowing when to stop. And I feel like these people just keep adding in functionalities that nobody needs this. No, this is too much. Time and time again, the devs creating systems like this clearly expose that they don't play their own games. Well, it doesn't matter. It's totally fucking irrelevant. Nobody cares about this. Why are you even doing this?
Adding system is like so powerful that it just feels like it's just additional button presses to then just end up following a quest marker after essentially some very easy investigation. And I didn't get to mess around with side quests all that much. There was one I stumbled upon where there's this orphan girl who was asking me for help, but I wasn't able to do that side quest before my time ran out. So I don't know what the quality of the side quests will be, whether they'll
it's gonna be
feel kind
great.
of really cheap and very kind of thrown together, or whether all of the side quests feel like they have.
This is going to be a very nuanced opinion. I think that a lot of AAA video games have the best content inside of their side quests. And I think that the reason why that happens is because the side quests are not designed by committee the same way that the main quest line is. And it's given to one individual writer in order to create a cohesive, comprehensive story that in a lot of cases is good. I think that these games create bad main stories and bad narratives and plots, and they do so by a matter of their approach. And you see this with World of Warcraft. You see it with, in my opinion, a lot of gacha games as well. And I'm trying to think if there's any other examples that just come right off the top of my head. With Dragon Age the Veilguard. So the main storyline of Dragon Age Veilguard is garbage. But some of the quest lines for the individual companions are, I would say, even above average. So, yeah, I mean, I liked Emmerich. I did too. I thought it was a really good story. What about Dragon's Dogma? I don't know. I mean, that could be an exception. I'm not really sure. But either way, my point is that I think that's the reason why the side quests are better. And I think that also that reality, because like I'm not the only person who's experienced this, right? Am I the only person who's observed this phenomenon that the side quests are oftentimes better told than the main quests? No, I'm not, right? I'm not. And so I think that what that tells you is that, number one, it's probably being designed by committee. And number two, that there are good writers that work at these companies, but they're being suffocated by bureaucracy. That's what I think's happening. And I think that the quality of these side quests are the perfect example of that.
Substantially
but
written,
we're gonna have to find out
where every side quest feels like it has a place in the world and like it was handcrafted, instead of just littering the world with really menial feeling tasks that don't make for compelling side quests. That's a trap that a lot of Ubisoft open world games tend to fall into. I don't know how the sense of exploration will feel like in this game, whether it's going to be the same affair of just like following a bunch of map markers based on what the UB towers reveal. And yes, the UB towers are back. You will be going to the peaks of certain architectures to reveal parts of the map and the activities that lay there. The map itself is also just massive from what I could see, and I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. I prefer density over volume, quality over quantity. I just hope that the open world actually feels...
It's not one or the other. It really just depends, right? You can have a game like The Witcher 3 that I feel like has that, and you can have the opposite like Starfield, right? The
Elden Ring, explore, and like the activities within them.
I think Elden Ring is a great example of a game where not every single area has a purpose, but sometimes it just creates a really good scene, and it looks really cool, and it just adds to the environment and the world. And I think that, and Dragon's Dogma 2 has a number of examples of this as well. And so I think that this is something that a great game designer will know how to calibrate, and a bad game designer will not. And there is no right option. There's just the right people to execute options that could work.